Hey everyone! So today we're going to be talking about line quality, as well as how to achieve the look and feel of various line art styles. So let's get going! If you're someone who has either struggled with line quality or have been particularly insecure about your line work, don't worry. Line quality is one of those things that you'll grow into as you continue to draw. It's a product of a lot of things: your personal tastes in art, the artists you admire at the time, your comfort level, your tools, and your approach to drawing as a whole. Your lines will inevitably shift throughout the course of your lifetime, either as a result of finding new inspirations or taking a whole new direction in terms of your stylistic approach. We'll start off with the basics before moving on to the specific ways you can vary up your line quality to emulate a variety of aesthetics. You'll most likely be grappling with these various building blocks for line quality for the rest of your career, so hopefully us breaking this down will make it easier for you to figure out new stylistic directions when you decide that it's time for you to change things up a bit. This is also a really good way to figure out what are the stylistic components of artists whose work you really admire and particularly whose line work really speaks to you. When it comes to the basics, there are three major pillars that define line quality: speed, weight, and confidence. So let's start by talking about speed. Modulating your speed as you draw will help you either simplify or flesh out the nuances of your line work. Drawing faster smooths out your lines and maintains its energy and vitality, but it is harder to create accurate shapes or even add careful details if you're rushing through the lines. On the other hand, drawing slower allows you to make purposeful decisions, maintain a level of proportion, and allows your lines to be placed with confidence. But this can also create wobbly, static line work if you draw too slowly. This doesn't mean you absolutely need to use both speeds while drawing. There are artists who specialize in styles that use inaccurate line work by choice, while others exclusively utilize speed to imbue life back into their lines and shapes. You'll be choosing when and where to subtly speed up or slow down in every drawing that you do. Inevitably, it'll become an instinctive choice you'll find yourself making once you've developed a sense for how these two speeds affect your line work, thereby allowing you to modulate your speed purposefully when aiming for specific styles. Now that we've talked about speed, let's talk about weight. Line weight is something most people will notice first. There are a variety of reasons why artists will choose to add, utilize, or omit line weight in their work. Certain styles are defined by this choice, such as the ones which use a strict flat weight pen or works created with a textured brush pen. Some artists use line weight to denote light and shadow, or to create a sense of depth, with foreground elements having a much heavier visual weight. There's also the arbitrary choice, where the weight of the line is just a byproduct of the angle, speed, and pressure used when the line was created. At a certain point, this choice will also be second nature, but if you're just starting to consider how weight factors into your work, consider what you want to accomplish. There's often no clear rule that artists follow beyond adapting the width of their lines to whatever looks best on the work they're trying to create. Play around with the weight of your lines once you've placed them and test out what looks best based on what you find most appropriate. So both speed and weight are usually pretty easy for people to discern when it comes to someone's line style, but I think the last one is the most important for me. When I think about line quality, I think about confidence. Beginner artists or those with perfectionist tendencies might find themselves in one or two camps. Either they chicken scratch their way to a line, or they attempt to perfect a line but with no real purpose or direction. Both of these will result in unclear, undescriptive lines that either hide details or just straight up confuse the viewer. At the root of the issue is often a fear of failure or a lack of understanding about what they're drawing. Beyond just confidence, line quality is also a tool to achieve clarity. Being able to describe your ideas purposefully is a key skill to have, as declaring your design sensibilities with an assured line will really help sell you and your work as an artist. So those three make up the pillars of line quality. And now that we know what makes a line, how do you improve yours? For me, there are 3 different methods I tend to cycle through when I'm thinking about improving my line quality. First one up is, surprise, surprise, practice. We all know this one, obviously, but I'd still like to emphasize that line quality is really just one of those things where mileage makes up a good chunk of its foundation. Art styles aside, being comfortable with the act of drawing really cannot be replaced. It's sometimes obvious when someone just really hasn't drawn for very long or are just starting to find their footing, so just remember that there's a part of this process that honestly is just a matter of time and mileage. Next up on the list is purposeful study. This is where you should be evaluating what kinds of styles you admire and would like to emulate. This isn't just about art that you like, this is about the directions you want your art to go in. Find an artist or compile a group of artists with line works that really just speak to you and see what they do that interests you so much. Oftentimes, you'll find that while not always consistent, the quality of one's lines do carry a familiar through line through any style they attempt. These consistent attributes are the ones that you should pay attention to. As an example of this, let me talk about some of my personal inspirations, such as Claire Wendling, Elisa Ivanova, J.C. Leyendecker, Alphonse Mucha, Sergio Tapie, and Ivana Amundsen. Both Claire Wendling and Elisa Ivanova are 2 artists that have a very dreamy quality to their line work. These 2 artists don't necessarily have a very clean or sterilized approach to representing reality. They prefer to have these wandering lines which lead your eyes to various places or bringing life and energy towards a particular focal point. Something I really love about their work also is that it feels very natural. They're not too focused on a academic, technical cleanliness to their work, I guess. I just really love how free it feels to look at their work and also how much fun it looks to be drawing in that style. I think it really speaks to me in that way. Sergio Tapie is really close in that aspect in that he has a lot of really lively, really sort of messed up, honestly, line work. And that's kind of what's so cool about it, is that it's super textured, it's super dramatic, and it really helps because he's a comic artist. So that kind of graphic approach to describing these really weird amorphous forms actually helps give that sense of drama to his pieces. And I think there's just something really fascinating about an artist that really just doesn't stick to what has been established in a mainstream. Like, you look at his work and you just know for a fact that he is doing this because it looks the best on this composition. Frankly, his stories are kind of weird, and his art styles match that perfectly. And it's through that kind of weirdness that I think Tapie's work really makes a huge impact on me. It's because it feels so alive and textured and gritty. He almost has this kind of hazardous motion when it comes to the lines that he places, and they're very purposeful. He's very deliberate, but then you look into the shadows and you feel this kind of chaotic energy. It's so fun. I love Sergio Tapie so much. Ivana Amundsen starts to move a little bit away from the kind of haphazard line work and starts to really clean it up, but he still maintains a sense of this internal texture. He has a lot of extra detailing work that I think is really fascinating, and he just has a really satisfying way of describing forms and shapes and posing characters and using his really natural looking line work to also enhance character design. I think the variety that he can accomplish in his work is absolutely fantastic. It's really satisfying to see art of characters that don't look classically beautiful or stereotypically hot. It's like these characters have all of these little tiny quirks about them, in part due to how Ivana Amundsen draws his characters. He draws them with personality and this unique sense of life that I find really fascinating in any art that I see, but in particular with art that is very focused primarily on line work. I think it's something that is a real quality that I certainly have struggled to achieve for a really long time. That each character feels like they're alive, and how do you use line work to really describe that? I think Ivana Amundsen is doing something really cool with the stuff that he's working on, and I think just by looking at his art, you can tell that he really uses lines as a way to enhance the story he's trying to tell. Alphonse Mucha is sort of a weird one because there's a difference between the work that Alphonse Mucha did for work and commercial work and the work that he did on the side or in prep for his commercial work. But just the way that he handles and plans for these graphic curves and the way that he lays down his lines in this controlled but really emphatic way. I think the work that Alphonse Mucha does, obviously we've all seen a lot of his Art Nouveau stuff, but it's really his personal work that I think really brings it home for me that this man was he was really empathetic, and he cared a lot about the way that he drew figures to really tell a story past all of the beautiful aesthetics, past all of the commercial stuff. There was something about the way that his characters looked and the way that they held themselves and the way that they posed in these compositions that was just so graphically emotional, at least for me. J.C. Leyendecker is sort of a curveball on this list because he's a painter, not necessarily a draftsman, but I think there's still something really amazing about the way that he treats his silhouettes. His characters are really stylized, really idealized people, and so that allowed him to kind of explore this statuesque beauty when it came to the way that he drew humans in his art. And while it's not necessarily natural or honest, I think it was really a beautiful way to sort of add to the kind of graphic cleanliness of his work. When you look at his stuff, you feel the juxtaposition of these straight angles to the delicate curves that he would place, especially as a fashion illustrator, and the way that he would sculpt people's faces out of paint. I don't know, I think there's just something really special about the work that Leyendecker does that I personally love looking at in other people's art and what I would love to accomplish in my own art. So now that you've heard me ramble about some of my favorite artists, let's talk about the last thing on this list, which is experimentation. This is sort of a mix of the other two, but it's still an important exercise. Actually trying out different styles and different ways of drawing lines is a vital part of defining your approach to line work. Not only doing what comes naturally to you, but trying out styles that are in opposition or at odds with your natural sensibilities will broaden your perspectives as well as your skill set. A lot of ingredients can go into the soup that is line quality. Any shift in percentage of weight to intent will drastically change the results of your line work. It's something that will grow with you as you mature and develop new interests and goals. So keep your eyes and mind open to new styles, new techniques, new ways to reflect reality through the conscious and subconscious choices you make every time you put pen to paper. In this chapter, we went over the 3 things that make up the foundation of line quality and also how you go about working towards your line work goals. For your mission, I want you to draw a character of your choice in your own line art style. Then, do a master copy of another artist's work to analyze their line quality and artistic choices. Take notes when you need them and be consistently referring back to what decisions they made and why. Once you're satisfied you've understood the makings of their work, redraw your original piece with the notes from your master copy in mind. I encourage you to draw this last piece multiple times so that you can understand and progressively become more comfortable with the notes you're trying to implement. In the next video, we'll be continuing our talk on stylization and the many ways that art styles can be defined. So I'll see you there whenever you're ready.